I have a new series of videos for you, and it starts today. It's called Gearing Up for the Week, and it will focus on, you guessed it, how I'm gearing up for the week. Sometimes the gear will be cameras and lenses, but sometimes it will be gear associated with my other pursuits, which admittedly are usually photography related, but you might see other things like gadgets that help me to do what I do. This week, I'm sharing my current photo storage and backup solution. I have shown you a few different setups that I've had through the years, but I recently had a hard drive fail, which prompted me to revamp my process and my hardware. So let's get to it. First, when I take photos, I do not put the camera back onto those shelves until the photos have been offloaded to my main storage drive, this 8 terabyte Western Digital My Book, a color chipmunk, and she is attached to this cute little Mac Mini. This Mac Mini has very little power or storage of her own. She was simply purchased for one job, to hold onto my storage drives. And I have my files on Chipmunk broken into 3 categories: my personal photography, my Snapchick photography, and my photography jobs. And then from there, I have folders set up by year, then by month, then by camera. I've used that structure for at least a decade, and it has worked well for me. I'll get back to the idea of cataloging in a minute though. Now for the first backup. This one is automated. I use the time machine function on the Mac Mini to back up all of the files every hour. It stores all of those files on another 8 terabyte Western Digital My Book drive. This little guy is named Oswald. I like Time Machine because it reliably backs everything up and it holds on to older versions so that I am able to go back into those older versions and retrieve anything that I may have, say, accidentally deleted or modified. There are other options that do the same thing, but I love how it is integrated into the Mac Mini and it's incredibly easy to use. Because when I realize that I've deleted something that I need, I don't want to deal with relearning some process before I can get my hands on those files. Plus, it's automated and it holds as many backups as it can, and then it just starts replacing the oldest backups when it runs out of space. Once Time Machine has done its thing, I typically feel confident enough to format my memory cards. That being said, there are times where I wait. If I shoot a wedding, if I've gone on a particularly important or big field trip, I wait to format. Now I have the photos stored and backed up in my studio. That's 2 copies of my files. But those are both on site. I want off-site backup as well. So I have a cloud storage service. I use Amazon Cloud Drive. I have a plan where I have unlimited storage for photos and 1 terabyte for video and other files. So at the end of each month, my photo folders get uploaded. And one really cool thing about Amazon Cloud Drive is that it has an AI component. It looks at the content of your images and adds tags to your images so that you can then search different categories. This is something that I actually used the other day because I needed desert images. So I searched the desert tag. It's not perfect, but it certainly did point me to the months where I took desert photos so that I could delve into those cameras. I should point out here an extra step that I take every time I photograph a special event. Rather than wait until the end of the month, I make sure that I upload my files to the cloud immediately, before I leave the venue if I can. Okay, now I have 3 copies, right? 2 on site and 1 in the cloud. I have one more step. It's a manual component and another that I do at the end of the month. I copy the month's files onto a portable drive. This is a 2 terabyte drive, and her name is Marmaduke. I take this to an off-site location and I update another slightly older Western Digital My Book. This one is 6 terabytes, and her name is Mucus. I may be updating this drive to a 3rd 8 terabyte drive, and she'll be getting a new name, but I'm not quite there yet. I do particularly like this step though because it keeps me in touch with what exactly I have and how much storage I'm using. Okay, so now I have 4 copies of my photos, and yet, alas, there is another component, my laptop. I have this 15-inch MacBook, which is my workhorse. I do have working files on here, photos and videos. So I have yet another drive. This is another Western Digital My Book, and this one is 4 terabytes. And my MacBook wirelessly backs up via Time Machine every hour. Now, this backup isn't nearly as robust as my other backups. I try not to keep anything too important on my laptop though. If it does go up in smoke or gets stolen somewhere, I'll have this backup at home. People storage solutions are a personal choice and are as inflammatory as Canon versus Nikon, RAW versus JPEG, or even DSLR versus mirrorless. And that's okay. There are a lot of options out there, and you should choose a system that makes sense to you and is scaled to your needs. If you feel that you need RAID or something more complicated, by all means do it. I've basically created something similar, except my RAID array is simply having full copies in a few different places, on-site, off-site, and in the cloud, including one where I can go back into old versions, right? I found that my storage needs have grown very elegantly in line with the availability of commodity hard drives. If there's a problem with one, I don't troubleshoot it, I replace it. I'm not taking chances. I purchase for my storage needs now, and at least for the near future. When I need more storage, prices have decreased, and I replace drives. It keeps things fresh, and I stay on top of my needs. Okay, that's it. That was kind of intense. Not all of these gearing up for the week videos will be so in-depth, but this is a subject that is very, very important to photographers. The process you use, it isn't so much the important part. You don't need to use my process or anyone else's process. You just need to find your own process, whatever works for you, and stick to it. Thanks for hanging out through my entire storage and backups process, everyone. I put links to the 8 terabyte drives that I purchased most recently in the description below. I am an Amazon affiliate, so thank you to those of you who use those links. It helps me make videos like this one. And I will be back next week with more gear. In the meantime, I would love to hear from you all. How do you store and back up your images? Let the rest of us know in the comments below.